Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Owen Gifford Show. I'm your host, Owen Gifford, a comic and podcaster here in Denver, Colorado. And I appreciate everyone who's listened thus far. We're up to episode 5 now. To start off the episode, I want to play an electric first clip from the NHL playoffs, which just started. Let's roll the clip.
The 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs are underway as Brandon Blandina drops the puck. Ottawa is the better. We have a fight on the opening faceoff. Kachuk, Stahl, exchanging blows, and down we go. 3 seconds into the playoffs. Brady Kachuk and Jordan Stahl, the two captains, have set the tone.
3 seconds into the NHL playoffs this year of game one. This was the first game of the playoffs between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Ottawa Senators. 3 seconds into the first game, Brady Kachuk, I think that's how you say his name, Brady Kachuk, and Jordan Stahl dropped the gloves and started fighting. How electric is that? It brought the crowd together. They were on their feet. Everybody's going. The two captains throwing hands. Oh, each team gets 2 minutes of penalty for fighting. Big deal. That set the tone. Brady turns to the crowd and goes, "Let's fucking go, boys. Let's go, boys." What hypes up the boys more for a playoff series, or the fans for a playoff series, playoff hockey, than two of the best players on two of the better teams throwing hands, throwing haymakers? That's excitement. That's why I really have been getting into hockey more than I have in the past. And I really found this love for hockey, which I didn't have. And it's nice because I didn't play hockey as a sport. So I'm just enjoying it as a fan. When I watch baseball, when I watch football, there's a little part of me that misses the game, misses being the one out there, being the one throwing the jukes or hitting the home runs, hitting the singles. I wasn't much of a home run hitter. But hockey, I don't even know how to ice skate. Even though I grew up in Idaho in the mountains and lived in Montana and Maine and all these cold places, I still don't know how to ice skate. So when I'm watching hockey, I'm just enjoying it as a fan. I know most of the rules, but there's still things I'm learning. And ooh, baby, is it electric. It is electric. What other sport doesn't have breaks? And in the first 3 seconds of a playoff game, they're throwing hands. Imagine that. Imagine KD and LeBron James, the first game of their series. They toss the ball up instead of going for the tip. KD just throws an absolute right hook on LeBron. Ends his 41-year-old LeBron James's career with a right hook. That's not going to happen in basketball. It's not going to happen in soccer where they get a red card for tripping, and football kind of is a fight, but they're not taking off the helmet unless it's like Andre Johnson back in the day. Baseball, there's fights when people throw at each other, but that's the most exciting part about baseball by far. Hockey, electric factory. But the reason I actually wanted to play this clip, this isn't a sports show. I've been thinking about doing a sports show maybe when the NFL season rolls around, but that's besides the point here. I actually want to talk about how much this can relate to other things. Like we have the midterm, it's 2026, we have the midterm elections coming up in November. Nobody even knows. I had to look up my representatives. Nobody knows who's in the race. Nobody cares. They're too worried about other things that are happening in their life. All the other things that are going on, they're focused on paying their bills. They're not worried about who they're putting in the Senate or the House of Representatives right now. We don't have a lot of voters in this country. We don't go out to vote. One problem is we don't even get the day off, which I think is ridiculous. When we're voting for president, we don't get the day off. It sets the president, ironically, that work is more important than the people of America, which is the culture of America. Work comes before everything, including voting for the leader who makes all of our decisions and controls the largest military in the entire world. Don't you think the person who's in charge of the largest military in the entire world is kind of a big deal? Maybe we should get the day off. Maybe we should take that as seriously as St. Patrick's Day. And I'm not saying I don't. I'm the same way. It's just how it is. In 2024, 65% of people voted for president in one of the more important elections in recent history. Young adults with the lowest at 50%. And I'll be honest, I voted in the past. I voted for Biden. I'm not sure if I was old enough to vote for Obama, but I would have voted for Obama if I was old enough at the time. But I didn't vote this last presidential election because I didn't think Trump definitely wasn't fit to be president in my eyes, and Kamala didn't show me what I wanted in a leader, so I didn't go out to vote. And a lot of people say you vote for the lesser of two evils in Kamala, but I'm not going to vote unless I get a president that I think should be president. Put a candidate out there that I think should be president, and I will vote for that person. But I didn't see it, and I think a lot of people didn't see it, and that's why the voting numbers were so low. And I think we just need to get more excited to vote. And that's why I played this clip. Because the NHL playoffs know how to get people excited. And I just imagine if in 2024 Trump was standing next to Kamala and Anderson Cooper or whoever was narrating the debate, said, "Welcome to the 2024 presidential candidate debate. First question." And then as soon as he starts asking the first question, Kamala just gives Trump a right hook. Just an absolute haymaker. Maybe a roundhouse kick. Maybe she's been studying jujitsu. Maybe she drops to the floor and gives her the old half Nelson. Before they start talking about education or healthcare or all of these issues in the world, Kamala's holding them with an arm bar, making them tap. That's what would bring people to their feet. That's what would get people excited about voting. Drop the gloves as soon as the Anderson Cooper starts to speak. Kamala Harris with the roundhouse kick. Everybody gets up. It's all respect. They go to their respective parties. They give them a let's fucking go. Everybody's hyped up. Everybody's ready. The crowd's in it. It's all over social media. People are like, that's something that I'd tune into. That's something that I would watch. Kamala giving the 1-2 punch to old Trump. In another years, Biden and who did Biden even run against? I got to look that up. Was it Trump? Stay tuned. It was Trump. I don't know how I forgot that, but imagine Sleepy Joe and Donald Trump before Trump, called Ted Cruz's wife a dog or whatever he did. Trump and Biden go hit for hit, punch for punch, go for a quick round, show what they can do on the battlefield because our leaders used to go into battle. I recently listened to something about Julius Caesar, and he was so respected by his people and his army and his soldiers because he never asked them to do something that he wouldn't do himself. He didn't start a draft with poor individuals in his community. He went to war and he stood in the front lines and said, I'm fighting this war because I believe in it and I'm in the front lines, and everyone respected him for that. And I think people want to see that from our leaders instead of sending the poor to die for a war that we don't believe in. Maybe before a professional presidential debate, we ring the bell. You know, we have AOC here holding the card. Round one. She walks around the ring, and Biden and Trump just go hand for hand. This is what I can do as a leader. I'm in charge of the biggest. I'm going to be in charge of the biggest army in the world. This is how I throw a punch. You know, I think people would respect that more. I know my respect for Brady Kachuk and Jordan Stahl and the Ottawa Senators and the Carolina Hurricanes and NHL as a whole went up. So we need to get more people out to vote. So I think every presidential debate should start with a couple haymakers, a couple left rights, a couple uppercuts. You know, let's get the people out to vote. And if that doesn't work, which I think it would, and obviously that's satirical for any of you listening and freaking out. If that doesn't work, we need to make the voting process more American. How do we get people's attention? We're in an attention economy now. It's all about attention. Can you get someone's attention? Can you hold it? Can you grab their attention and hold it? And there's tactics going on all around. You know? Like red is a very appealing color to the human eye. We're naturally trained to be attracted to it and be aware of it because it is the color of our blood, and it's just a very vibrant color. That's why all these fast food chains are red. Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Wendy's, Raising Cane's, you name it. The Golden Arches, they're up there. That red, it attracts us in. They're pulling us in. Pulling us in. Banks are blue because blue is the color of trust. So we want them to trust. We want to trust them with our money, so they're blue. Banks are blue. You know, these oil companies are green because nature is green, trees are green. BP, British Petroleum. They want us to remind us of life and sustainability. And all of these things are constantly going on. Everybody's trying to get our attention. I'm doing it with this podcast. You know, I try to get people's attention, and you need to get their attention within the first 3 seconds. First couple seconds. So you start a fight before the presidential debate begins. And because that's America right now, fighting for attention, trying to get people's attention. So if the fighting doesn't work, I think we should implement some things that we do in other places. Maybe we get a sponsor. I'm thinking Chili's. Any town in America, any pretty big town in America, there's a Chili's. They're dependable. You know what you're getting. You're going to get some cheap drinks. You're going to get a triple dipper. You're going to get some mozzarella sticks. You know what you're getting when you're going to Chili's. There's going to be people eating there. Some hardworking Americans eating in Chili's, and it's everywhere. And that's why I think we should get Chili's. To get more voters, we should get Chili's to sponsor the American presidential debate or the American presidential voting system. Just imagine this. You don't want to vote. It's Tuesday in November. You got to work. You don't want to vote. You don't really believe in either candidate. You don't know who you're going to vote for. I mean, you're kind of leaning, but, your vote you don't really feel like your vote matters. Every time you vote for a politician, they do the opposite of what they say. You know, Trump said, we're not going to war with Iran, made fun of Biden for his Gas prices, and look at the world now, high gas prices, and we're at war with Iran. You don't really believe in politicians, you don't really believe in voting, you don't feel like your vote matters in America. They say it's a free country, but and it is, it has freedom for sure, but there are some areas where we don't really feel free. So you're not sure if you want to use your time to, maybe go to the gym, help yourself out, do something that actually benefits you, or go to the polls. But then you see something, if you vote in the 2028 presidential election, you get a $25 gift card to Chili's. Your eyes light up, your mouth starts watering. You just hit a bowl before you were going to the gym, and now you're thinking about, ooh, a free triple dipper? Just for going to the polls, just for being a good American citizen. I get a free triple dipper? Cheese pull? On a Tuesday? God damn. Makes me want to go out and vote. So you head to the polls, you don't know who to vote for, but you check one of the boxes that you feel most aligns with you, with your values, the lesser of two evils between these politicians. And then you head to Chili's and you have a great time. And you did your due diligence as an American citizen. You voted, which everyone should do. I know I didn't last time, but I'm hoping there's some better candidates on the Democratic side this time that I truly believe in. Like Obama. I believed in Obama. Obama felt like a president to me. And I would vote for that guy. Imagine voting for Obama and then getting a $25 Chili's gift card. That's America, baby. That is a good time. How would it work? I'll put my tax dollars to that. I'll pay a few extra bucks. I'll pay $25 a year in taxes for the $25 Chili's gift card just to get people out. Or you know what? The government should just pay for it, subsidize it. Or, maybe every 4 years we have to make one of our chain restaurants in America go bankrupt to pick a good candidate. I think it is worth seeing a good president every 4 years to cut off the Applebee's, Chili's, Olive Gardens of the world. Because they'll bounce back. We got them back. We'll get their backs. We'll have a Chili's night. But I think it's worth it. Maybe every 4 years we get a $25. Everybody gets a $25 gift card from a certain middle of the road American chain restaurant. And that gets everybody out to the polls and we vote for a good candidate. And they go under for a few years. Beauty is pain, baby. If we want beauty in America, we're going to have to make some sacrifices, and maybe we have to make Chili's go under to get someone in the Oval Office that we really believe in and can make some change for the American people. That is what I believe. Like in 2024, when it was between Trump and Kamala, if it was check this box for Trump, check this box for Kamala Harris, or check this box for a triple dipper, I think I'm having the triple dipper run this country. I'm gonna be honest. I think I'm checking that triple dipper box. I don't think if the triple dipper was running things right now that we'd be in a war with Iran, or people wouldn't be able to afford their houses or buy a house or constantly think about rent or work 60 hours a week, work 2 jobs to afford shoes for their kids. Things would be a little bit better. I still think the food would probably be a little poisoned. Considering there's a lot of salt in those triple dippers. But, if it's between Trump, Kamala, and triple dipper, I'm checking triple dipper every time. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I think if you can't show that you're going to be a better leader than a triple dipper, I don't think you deserve to run this country. I don't think you deserve to be in charge of the most powerful country in the entire world. If people don't think that you are a clear cut better leader than a triple dipper. I'm taking Obama over a triple dipper every single day. Obama's dropping a triple double on a triple dipper every day of the week. All right? You could put $200 gift card on the ballot against Obama. I'm picking Obama. All right? I believed in that man. I trusted that man. We need someone like that back in office. I know he's not perfect and people had their issues with him, but he still felt like he wanted the good of the people, which I just didn't feel from Trump and Kamala. I felt like Kamala was kind of forced upon us. We didn't vote her up. And Trump is just, Trump. Not my favorite. Not anybody's favorite, actually. Trump's approval ratings are now at 35%. 35%. That is not ideal. Just for reference, 35% approval rating is below. Obama was at 45%. Like I said, I liked Obama a lot. I think he was a good president. And I think about 45 is about as high as you're going to get. Bill Clinton was around 50 and 60. He was very charismatic and people really liked him. But the Clintons, they've got some skeletons in their closet for sure. Even Biden was at 40%. Biden was an okay president to me. I wish he was a little more up and about. He didn't really feel presidential to me. Didn't feel strong, but he was all right. Didn't start with a war with Iran that I didn't like. Gas prices were high, but that's even above the president. We'll get to that later. Biden had a 40% approval rating, which is above Trump right now at 35%. Biden has a higher approval rating than Trump, and he slept through the test. Imagine sleeping through an entire test and just checking the boxes, and then you walk out and you come back another day and you got a better score than the guy who said he was going to get the greatest score of all time. Said he was going to make America the greatest country of all time, and you made it a better country by sleeping through the test. Crazy. It's a crazy, crazy world. And Trump knows that he is not the most popular right now. It's because, there's so many things going on. I keep repeating them. We're at war. Everything's expensive. Food is poison. Nobody trusts politicians. He didn't say that he was going to do anything. He didn't do anything that he was going to say. ICE is horrific. The Mexican people are great. I go down to Mexico all the time. Such a beautiful culture with the best food, great music, great people. Most of the people coming over to this country from Mexico want to be better people. They want a better life for their family. That doesn't really scream like a bad person to me, does it? And so Trump knows that he's at 35% now, so he's trying to bump his numbers, and he's not doing it any of the ways that we want him to. He's not prosecuting his buddies who are on the island. He's not, helping us out down here at all. The Dow is the highest it's ever been. The Dow is up. We can't do anything about the island. The Dow is up. The Dow just hit the highest point it ever is. But the poor have no money to invest. The wealth gap is growing so large that the wealthy are investing and growing their money at an exponential rate, and the poor don't have any money to invest, so they don't have the knowledge or the power to invest in the stock market. So they're not even getting the benefits of the Dow being up. So there's no oh my God. The wealth gap is crazy right now. And Trump's at 35%, so he's trying to win us back with things that we like. He's pushing legalize cannabis. He's talking about psychedelics, which are both things that I support. I do support the legalization of weed. I've always liked living in states with legalized weed. I smoke weed. Not afraid to admit it. I like it. Helps me out. Helps a lot of people I know out. But you can't just do horrible shit and then be like, you can have drugs and then everybody forgets about everything else. But that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to do it with psychedelics, which again, I support. I know I talk about it all the time, but they truly are like one of the most magical things in this world and are extremely beneficial. And if you haven't done them, you just won't understand the beneficial powers of psychedelics. But Trump's trying to win us over with these things that are good, but there's bigger fish to fry than weed and mushrooms right now. I'm gonna play a clip of Joe Rogan and Trump in the White House this week. Listen up.
I sent President Trump some information. We have a gigantic opiate problem in this country, obviously. In 2024, more than 80,000 people died of overdoses. It's a horrible number. And there's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With one dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction. With 2 doses, it's more than 90%. I sent him that information. The text message came back, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. And it was literally that quick. These drugs are illegal not because they're harmful. They're illegal because of the 1970 Controlled Substances Act that was passed by the Richard Nixon administration. They did it to target the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement. It's not because these drugs harm people. And for 56 years, we've lived under those terrible conditions. We're free of that now. We're free of that now. Thanks to all these people that we see next to me, and thanks to President Trump.
We all respect Joe, and he's a little bit more liberal than. That's okay. I have a lot of friends that are liberal, but Joe is an amazing guy, and he wrote me a little note about this, and I had it checked out. I didn't just do it. I had it checked out. I went to Bobby and Oz. I went to some of the people that work for you, real pros, and everybody came back with the same answer. Normally they'll come back, because this happens a lot. I have a couple of them like that, where they're not sure. It's like, it goes 2 ways. This thing, everybody thought it was incredible. And I told Bobby, I said, Bobby, let's just do it and get Oz involved, and it's going to get done so quickly, and you guys did a great job.
Now, a couple things about this video are interesting, right? One, it shows how quick things could happen. A lot of these politicians are like, oh, red tape, we got to go through the checks and balances, which, checks and balances are good. Keeps one person from having too much control if they're done right. But it's not obviously done right, and there's a lot of things going, a lot of money being handed under tables around. But it shows how quick things could happen. Trump texts Joe Rogan, do you want FDA approval? Let's get it done immediately, just like that. Bing, bang, boom. It's like that saying, when a guy is not showing interest in a girl, it's like, if he wanted to, he would, which is kind of true. It's like, if these politicians actually wanted to help us, they could. They have the power, they have the knowledge, they just don't a lot of the time for selfish reasons. And so that's one thing. Another thing is, I've said this before, Rogan, I was a big fan of him for a long time. I think he does a lot for young comics, and I think he's done a lot for the podcasting and comedy world. And I liked his interviews when he was younger, more open-minded, less in the system, he's clearly in the club. George Carlin said it best, one of the greatest comics of all time, talking about the government and the elites. It's a big club, and you're not in it. And it appears that Rogan is now in it. And I said this in a podcast a few weeks ago, when he was talking to Theo Vaughn, he's like genuinely, he used to be the big conspiracy guy, talking about whatever, free form, which is what I'm trying to do here, talk about what I truly believe in. And it just feels like when all these things that are really happening are coming up, like the island and the war and all the stuff like that, he immediately changed the subject. And I went through the reasons before. Could be he's protecting his business, he's uh, protecting his family, or he's now he's in the club, which is kind of scary. And it's just like, who do you trust now? Who do you trust as a voice in America? I truly don't know. I'm happy these psychedelic things are being pushed forward because they will help with depression. We struggle so much with mental health in this country, and it truly is a tool that can make you calm down and realize that it's all good. We're all just part of this interconnected universe. We're just dust in the wind, as the Bible says. We're just part of the universe. It's all good. We're all people. We're all connected. Everybody just relax. It's all good. It's kind of the message I get from mushrooms every time. Just like, respect nature, man. Live your life. Enjoy the journey. It's all good. Don't harm anyone. Love everybody. So I'm happy about that. It's just the things that are going up around in the White House these days are insane. Which brings me to my last topic. It's an interesting one. It's a wild one. It's a crazy one. Recently, I live in Denver, Colorado, and just up the road recently, there was a man on April 20th named David Wilcock, who was a prominent American paranormal researcher, author, and television personality focusing on aliens, extraterrestrials. He was on the History Channel, Ancient Aliens. He was a big figure in the disclosure movement, New York Times bestseller. And just up the road in Nederland, Colorado, which is a beautiful town that I drive through, they have a great pizza place that I go to all the time. He recently ended his life by suicide, which is a horrible thing to do. They were claiming that he was outside of his residence home at approximately 11:02 a.m., having a mental health crisis. And with minutes upon deputies arriving, he had a gun in his hand and he turned the weapon on himself, which is horrible. But the weird part about this is that recently there have been numerous scientists related to the UFOs and propulsion systems from NASA and other government organizations that have Control Alt deleted themselves. I'm going to play the David Wilcock. Play a video of the day before he died, a stream. Playing that video now.
Frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary. I got to say, it's a little bit scary. But you guys knew that I might still show up, even though it was last minute and I've had a really rough week. Like, that's kind of like every week. But somehow we keep on making it through all of this. I really wish there were other influencers out there doing global meditations, but right now it seems like I'm the only one. And so we gotta keep on track, you guys. I need other people out there doing this for me because I don't want to be a single point failure. If anything ever happened to me, God forbid, we don't want that to happen. But I want other people to be doing this as well, not just me.
This clip is a little eerie. It was from his live stream the day before the events went down with him, with David Wilcock. And in the video, he does seem pretty lonely. Says he's having hard times. But he does mention the 11 scientists, or the scientists that are seemingly being hunted down That's what it seems like. And I'm gonna run through the 11 scientists quick before I comment on it. All right, this is from Fox LA, Fox Los Angeles. I'm not a Fox News guy. Okay, it just came up. It was the clearest list. Okay, number 1, Monica Reza. Missing since June 22, 2025. Reza was an aerospace engineer and materials processor who worked for both NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena and Aerojet Rocketdyne. She was known for developing and patenting a specialized type of metal used in rocket manufacturing. She disappeared while hiking in a forest with her friend near Mount Waterman in Angeles National Forest. According to her companion, they were roughly 30 feet apart. When they made eye contact, she smiled and waved to indicate she was fine. Moments later, when the friend turned around again, she had vanished. All right, so that's the first. Second one, Carl Remer. Died February 16th, 2026. Remer was renowned. He was a renowned 67-year-old astrophysicist at Caltech's Infrared Processing and Analysis Center. Caltech is a very good school, if you don't know. They partner with NASA, this center. He was famous for discovering water on a distant exoplanet and his work on dark matter and galactic structures using the Spitzer Space Telescope. In the incident, he was gunned down on the front porch of his home in Llano in the Antelope Valley. Michael David Hicks died July 2023, a resident of Sunland. Hicks was a veteran research scientist at JPL for 24 years, from 1998 to 2022. He was a highly respected physicist specializing in the physical properties of comets and asteroids. The incident. He passed away at age 59. His cause of death was never made public. Frank Mywald died July 4th, 2024. Mywald was a 61-year-old principal researcher at JPL. He was a highly specialized engineer who designed critical instruments for space missions. At the time of his death, he was working on the surface biology and geology mission, designing a visible to shortwave infrared instrument to map Earth living color. He died in Los Angeles on July 4th, 2024. His cause of death was never made public. Amy Eskridge. She died on June 11th, 2022 in Huntsville, Alabama. While authorities have officially ruled her death a self-inflicted gunshot wound, several factors have contributed to the ongoing public debate, intense scrutiny around the case. Most notably, I looked into this in interviews and podcasts prior to her death. She repeatedly said, "I am not going to off myself, and if I ever do, it wasn't me." And she said that her and her team were being subjected to harassment and psychological warfare intended to stop her work on anti-gravity and exotic physics at the Institute for Exotic Science. All right, we're going to keep going. Nuno Larorio. He died on December 15th, 2025. He was fatally shot in his Brookline, Massachusetts home. An act authorities have linked to a suspect also responsible for a mass shooting at Brown University days later. Larorio was director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, a world-renowned expert in nuclear fission and magnetic reconnection. Next up, Jason Thomas. Thomas, a science and director at Novartis, went missing from his home in Wakefield, Massachusetts in December 2025. Police have found no evidence of foul play, even though his body was recovered from a lake in March 2026, 3 months after he went missing. Major General William Neal McCaslin, the retired Air Force official known for his leadership at the Air Force Research Laboratory in Albuquerque, New Mexico, went missing from his home on February 27th, 2026. His phone, prescription glasses, and wearable devices were found at home, but his hiking boots, wallet, and a .38 caliber revolver were reported missing, according to the county sheriff's office. He was linked to an unidentified aerial phenomenon (UAP) research in 2016. WikiLeaks released some emails. The messages highlighted his former leadership of the Air Force Research Laboratory, a site that was frequently associated with Roswell-related UFO theories. All right, down the list. Melissa Cassius. She was an employee with security clearance at Los Alamos National Laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. And she disappeared on June 26, 2025, after being spotted walking alone in Taos County. Although her car and personal belongings were found at her home, family members noted that both her personal and work phones had been factory reset. Her family maintains that her disappearance was not voluntary, citing her plans to care for her mother following an upcoming surgery. Next up, Anthony Chavez. Chavez, a retired professional who also worked at Los Alamos National Laboratory, disappeared on May 8th, 2025. When authorities and family members searched the 78-year-old's home, they found his wallet, keys, and other personal items left behind inside. His car was locked in the driveway, and there were no signs of forced entry or a struggle, according to the Los Alamos Reporter. Chavez worked for decades at Los Alamos National Laboratory before retiring in 2017, placing him within the same northern New Mexico defense hub as others who also disappeared. All right, last one. Steven Garcia. Garcia, a government contractor with high-level security clearance at the Kansas City National Securities Campus, has been missing since leaving his Albuquerque home on August 28, 2025. Although police initially suggested Garcia might be in danger to himself after he was seen on surveillance footage carrying a handgun and leaving behind his vehicle and personal effects, sources familiar with the case have disputed claims that he was mentally unstable. Garcia's disappearance is notable for his proximity to fellow missing official McGlassland and his oversight of sensitive assets within the U.S. nuclear weapons arsenal. All right, I know that was a lot. But the point is, there are 11, now 12 scientists, people who are related closely to UAPs, UFOs, propulsion systems that have gone missing. And the FBI is on it. Kash Patel is on it. Which Kash Patel, we're in good hands. The guy who loves to drink beers with the U.S. hockey team. We're in good hands. But this is a serious matter. These people are losing their lives, which is horrible. They're human beings. So let's run through the possible scenarios. Obviously, I'm just a guy who smokes pot and thinks about these things and does comedy. None of this. I have no clearance and no real knowledge other than reading articles and thinking about things. But let's run through it. Okay, so first scenario. These people are all very, very intelligent. And when you are extremely intelligent as a human being, there is a clear correlation between intelligence and depression. The more you understand the world, the more you think about, the more dots you connect. There's a strong correlation between intelligence and depression because a lot of people don't really know what they're doing. They don't know the traps that they're being pulled into. And they don't really see the puppeteers behind all the actions, but smart people do. So it leads to depression because their fellow humans are being manipulated and everyone's telling them they're crazy because they see the strings that are pulling them around, but the people on the strings don't obviously see the strings. Leads to depression. And maybe that was just too much. And maybe all these stories are true that they did end their lives because they were just a little too smart for this world. Because it is hard to be smart in this world. There is kind of ignorance is bliss. I do this joke in my stand-up set. Have you ever been talking to someone and you're talking to them and you're like, wow, you are so dumb. You're probably happy. And then kids are so happy. And there was this one time I was not following, I was walking behind a dad and his son. And kids are so happy because they're so ignorant and blissful that even the smartest kid in the world is still pretty dumb. So I was walking behind this dad and his son, and the dad goes, "Son, I want $1 million." And the kid goes, "Dad, that's so lame. I want a quesadilla." Ha ha ha, hardy har har. But the point is, there is a strong correlation between intelligence and lack of blissfulness in this world. So that is a possibility. Maybe it's just a coincidence that all these people that have gone missing were just too smart for this world, which is sad. Then there's also, we can start thinking of some other things, getting put on our tin hats, start thinking. Maybe these people are being hunted down for knowing too much about. So this could come from a lot of places. They're working on UAP, renewable energy propulsion systems. So this is clean, renewable energy that is infinite. I know some people that would not be very happy if we figured out that technology. Because if we had clean, renewable, infinite energy, it would undoubtedly push society forward and be better for society as a whole, but it would not be good for the people that are currently in power. It would not be good for the oil companies. It would not be good for the military, or if someone gets this energy in their hands, it could lead to bad things. But the thing about people is people in power want to stay in power. That's all they care about. That's how they became so powerful, is because all they care about is power. So that's all they want. And once you have power, you don't want to go down. Everybody knows this. Once you move up in life, you don't want to go back. Once you're a waiter, you don't want to go back to a busboy. So if there was a renewable energy that was infinite, it would rip apart the control that the oil companies have on this country. It would clean up the world, clean up the climate. But, the chevrons of the world would no longer run things. So maybe, allegedly, I'm just speculating here and I am a dumbass. So don't listen to me. But maybe these oil companies are hiring people to take out these guys and women in overt ways, because the information that they have and the knowledge they possess, the power of their knowledge, could lead to completely flipping this country and this world around technology wise. Like, we wouldn't rely on oil so much if we had infinite renewable energy. So that is a possibility. All right. Another possibility is they learned so much about aliens and the world, and the truth about aliens and how this world functions was a little too dark for them to handle. Maybe it was a little matrixy. Maybe it was like, we're being farmed. We're kind of like sheep. Everything we know or believed is wrong. Maybe they learned something about like God and Jesus relating to aliens, or maybe like the people in power are aliens. And obviously, I don't believe any of that. I'm just saying possibilities. And then that knowledge was just too much, and then they decided they couldn't do anymore, which is another possibility. Maybe the truth is just too dark. Lastly, maybe they are being hunted down by our own government because they have knowledge and they worked in the government. They got this knowledge of these alien technologies, and they said, oh, okay, now that I'm out of the government, people deserve to know this. Like, they learned it through top secret clearance. Then they got out, then podcasts and TikTok and these things started coming out, and they're like, I just want to tell people, we gotta have disclosure day. We gotta tell everybody what's going on here. And maybe the government doesn't want that to happen because it could crumble some things, or the truth is too dark, or they just don't want people to know about aliens yet for whatever reason, which is interesting. So maybe they're quieting them up before they could talk. And as for aliens, do I believe in aliens? Yes. I believe that on a math scale, universe is too massive and too large to not have other life. And we have other life on Earth. Humans were always like, oh, we're the only intelligent species. Like dolphins are very intelligent. There's different types of intelligent. Trees are intelligent. They talk to each other and they cover the whole world. Dogs, there's all sorts of life. And I just saw Project Hail Mary, which was a good movie, but there could be different signs. Like there could be bacteria, which is life. Grand scheme of things, millions and millions of years, bacteria will eventually evolve into, human-like intelligent things, but it takes millions and millions of years. But on the grand scale of the universe, millions of years is not much. And the government is releasing files and files and files and files. Clearly, something's going on. But in terms of math, I believe aliens have to exist. And if they don't, that's even scarier, because then we're just in this giant void of millions of infinite space, dark matter that's expanding for no reason. And we're the only ones here, which is terrifying. Which helps with the creation theory that this was all created. Makes people talk about simulations and things like that. Which is, we have AI and we start getting into these, we're starting to make it more and more likely that we can strap on a headset and go to other worlds, that if there were aliens, they already figured out that technology. So it's like some Rick and Morty shit where maybe we're already in a simulation in a world and just keeps going in and out, and there's multiple dimensions and all this crazy stuff, And what do I believe? I believe that it's all crazy, that it's crazier and uncomprehendable to the human mind. So you might as well just like live your life and agree with the masses, kind of, and chill out, because you're never gonna know. You're never gonna figure it out. But all I'm saying with this podcast is that there's some weird shit going on around aliens and UAPs, and maybe in our lifetime we will figure out something that completely changes everything. And I kind of hope that happens, because it sounds exciting, but I don't know. I'm just a guy talking, and if you listen to this whole podcast, I really appreciate it. I'll take off my tin hat now. Just know that what I really believe is human beings, just protect your neighbor, love your family, live your life, do what you love, chill out, enjoy the sunsets, all this crazy shit. You can't really do anything about it. And if you can, then choose to do the right thing, and always just choose to do the right thing, because there's really no harm in that. So, signing off. Thanks everybody for listening.